Welcome back to Last Studio on the Boulevard. I'm your host, Clay Blair, and it's been a while since we've done an episode, but we're going to start doing these more regularly now. And today I've got a really fantastic surprise, one of my favorite people in the whole world, and turns out made some of my favorite records of all time, the wonderful Steve Lillywhite. I've not seen Steve in years. Years back, we worked together and remixed a Pogues record together. We also worked on 30 Seconds to Mars and a couple other projects. This is going to be a conversation with two friends about our past, about a little bit about the studio and things that Steve and I did together, and then a lot about his career and his opinion on things, because I really enjoy Steve's views and opinions about things relating to records, because he really knows a thing or two. His track record shows that. So anyway, here we go. Hey everybody, Clay Blair. I am here with the wonderful Steve Lillywhite, who I've known for over a decade now. He's in town visiting. I've not seen him in probably over a decade, and he offered to come by and see the studio since we rebuilt, and we're so happy to have him here. And I said, well, do you want to be on the podcast? And actually, no, he was the one that said, can I be on your podcast?
And he went, to be honest, he went, nah. Oh, all right then.
So I stayed up really late preparing, and it's going to do me no good. But here we are. I'm with the wonderful Steve Lillywhite. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Clay. Well, you know, we didn't even meet to do with the studio. We met in a sushi bar just around the corner.
Yeah.
But our mutual friend is Imi, right?
Yes.
Imi from the Counting Crows, who I haven't. I need a dose of Imi. Everyone needs a dose of Imi, don't they?
He's in New York. You might catch him in New York.
I might catch him. Okay, that would be good.
Yeah.
Here I am back at Boulevard, where I never really made any recordings, but I love Clay. He's a lovely, good studio guy. But I did do some mixing here with him on a Pogues album that I felt that when I did it, I made a big mistake, and that I mixed the vocal too quiet, because I didn't feel, the vocals were quite weak sounding, I thought, to my ears at the time. So I wanted to hide Shane MacGowan's voice. And in fact, what I should have done was to push them up louder. Because sometimes if something is a little on the weak side, if it's really at the front end of the mix, you can get away with how it sounds, because it's sort of meant to be like that, but if you hide it back a little bit, which I did, it doesn't help how it sounds. So myself and James Fernley, the wonderful accordion player, came and hung out in that room over there before the great fire of
2021, I think it was
2021. Yeah, I know.
But James Fernley also was the translator, because I couldn't understand what Shane was saying, even with the vocal solo many times.
First they look for bombs and guns, then they look for drugs. Southwest they look for us, toast to jokes. Say fucking that penny, so I headed for a smoke on a boat train.
Yeah, well, that was also one of the problems, because I think he had fewer teeth on that album than he did on the previous one. So, but anyway, it was all good, and it turned out great. And it was and I think I righted the wrongs of when I recorded it. Now I just need to go back and redo all my other early albums.
In Atmos.
In Atmos. Oh God, what's your feeling of Atmos? Is it a viable proposition, or is it a little bit stupid?
If you've sat, which very few people have sat in a room that is really dialed for Atmos, it's fucking incredible.
Well, it also depends on the music. I helped on a U2 album called Achtung Baby, which, when it came out was pretty dense sounding, but I listened to the Atmos mix and sort of helped just consulting the Atmos mix of the of that. And I have to say, there were things that you don't hear in the stereo mix, but because there's so much around you, it was incredible. Actually,
Wow.
I have to say that album really worked in Atmos. But other things, I don't know if anything's better than the original tight mono or stereo.
Yeah. I agree. On the classic records, but something with you too, with lots of space and lots of delays, and
Yeah, you can throw the delays back. But Acting Baby was a very dense record, so I think it worked for that. But to do a sort of blanket, to say your record has to be Atmos friendly, otherwise we won't put it on the front page of our
right.
thing, purely for advertising.
Yeah.
It's putting the technology ahead of the art, which is something that doesn't seem right.
And I know when Blu-ray and 5.1 and 7.1 and they, and then they tried to do the thing where you spend, $50 for an album on Blu-ray to listen to it in 5.1. That never worked.
Go back even further. When I started in studios in 1972, they had this quad joystick, and I was in the studio once and I was going da 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 da. I mean, literally da 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 like that. But it never took off, and the reason that's why any sort of multi-speaker system. Do you know why they never became successful?
Because no one owns them.
No, because the wife would never allow so many speakers in the living room.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was like, what are those things doing there?
Yeah.
Yes, you can have your little, you can have your 2 speakers, but to have 4 or 6.
And now they're trying to jam 9, was it 12? Is it 9.6 that Atmos into AirPods?
And yeah. I
And-
mean, it's about compatible, but
Right.
so it sort of makes it, no one's ever going to hear it
No.
in the complete Atmos.
We have a Sonos set up at the house, but that's a sound bar, a sub, and 2 little speakers in the back, and it's cool, but it's I think it seems like a way for the labels to have some sort of control for as long as they can until it ultimately runs out, because it feels like that's what's happening, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
With AI and intellectual property and melody and voice likeness and all these things that are happening.
It's pretty amazing, though.
It is.
I mean, it's not quite as good, but literally what was it? Someone said, you can literally go in now and say, make a record in the style of Steve Lillywhite in the 80s.
yeah.
And something comes out, you go, oh, that's not so bad.
Right. Yeah.
In about 30 seconds,
It's incredible.
and lyrics. You can go in and say, write a song about Steve's love for Susie because it's a problem and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it comes up with this, I remember, I mean, AI is a bit like this. When I was working with the Killers and Brandon Flowers always said to me, Steve, I'm great at 8 out of 10s. I can write 8 out of 10s almost every day. And it's true. He says, but a fucking 10 out of 10? Almost never.
Almost never.
Mr. Brightside was definitely a 10 out of 10. That song is brilliant.
Yep.
But that's sort of what AI does. AI can give you these 8 out of 10s, but in a world of 8 out of 10s, I don't know if that's good enough.
Right.
But eventually, because the Beatles never did an 8 out of 10.
No.
So, and that's the sort of, when AI gives you something that affects a 6-year-old and a 60-year-old,
Yeah.
like the Beatles can do,
Then it's
because
over.
it still does. That's the amazing thing about those records, is that they truly are timeless.
They are. And that's the thing too. Like, I've had conversations with, kids or young people, and
Kids or young people, which one?
well, both kids and young
Kids
people.
and young people.
Yeah. But people that are learning how to do this at home, like
Yeah.
it's like part of outreach now for studios or people that are mixers, is like, don't do this. Here's the list of things not to do when you're recording at home, because you make my job so much harder.
Right.
But, just going through the minds of well, it doesn't matter if I just put 10 plugins on it, it's going to sound like that record I like. I'm like, no, not quite.
No.
And then the shelf life, you explain shelf life to somebody that has no concept of time, because we live in a world now where everything is immediate. It has to be yesterday, has to be right away. And the concept of time is, I mean, no wonder people can't buy houses. They don't know how to fucking save money, right?
Right.
So it's very challenging to tell them, like, well, the shelf life of this, like, you got an okay song, but it sounds horrible. You could make it sound pretty okay if you do these couple things, but people just, they don't care.
Well,
So
it's almost like their egos are always in the, I mean, if I was writing a song, I'm not a songwriter, but if I was, I would literally go, well, who does this song sound a little bit like?
Mhm.
I go, okay, sounds a little like The Who. Okay, dig deep into my honest place. Is it as good as The Who? In all those boxes. And the chances are it won't be. Other people do that, but they still release it. It's like,
no
don't
filter.
clog up the airwaves. Maybe it's the artist who has to be more, as you say, they're rushing to let people hear that. Don't rush. Just refine it. Make sure. And if it's no good, throw it away. Do another one. You're not wasting thousands of dollars anymore.
No.
It's a strange thing that we feel that because I could, and I would probably blame, I mean, American Idol basically put pitch as the prerequisite for great, bit pitchy dog, and all that. It's like, yeah, but your favorite records are as wide as that in their pitch. They're chorused out, but they sound thick and lovely and juicy. And,
Well, let's talk about Steve Lillywhite's incredible recording career and pitch. You've worked with some of the greatest singers.
I can't sing either.
I know you
It's
can.
so funny. It's
Well, I mean,
I've worked with some of the greatest
Chris
singers.
Cornell, you did a
Yeah,
Bond
I did
song. You Bono, I have them written here. Some of the greatest vocalists of our lifetime.
Yeah.
Peter Gabriel, Morrissey, David Byrne, Mick Jagger, Neil Finn, Adam Duritz, Brandon Flowers, Liam Gallagher.
Yep.
So
all great syngers.
all
Dave
great.
Matthews is a good singer.
Dave Matthews
Bono
is
is a
incredible.
great singer.
And how important is pitch? When you're cutting vocals with these guys, are they really hard on themselves? Are they very confident? Are they more interested in doing it in a way in which they're comfortable? Or
they're all different. I mean, I got Mick Jagger, 25 years into his career. So I knew that, one take for warm up, take two would be the one that was be most of it. Take three, you'd have a few little bits that you could drop into take two. And then I remember once I said, Mick, we need to do the first line again. He goes, fucking hate doing the first line again.
Yeah,
it's his
that's
it's
tough.
his least. Yeah, it's tough, the first line. Because, once you get going. But yeah, so that was Mick Jagger. Bono is completely different in that he always sings great until he's got the finished lyric.
right, you told me he would finish when you were mixing sometimes.
Oh yeah. He would never. This is the system is he would scatter vocal, and he's a great singer. He's a great singer when he's not. When he's 100% confident on the lyric, but he never writes lyrics to sing. He sings lyrics to write. But that's. I mean, Bono and David Byrne and Dave Matthews are all the same in that respect. They sing phonetically and, like scrambled eggs.
Like mumble.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
when Paul sung Scrambled Eggs, that
Right.
was a, place filler. But with them, they actually sing in this sort of scat voice and then go and try and make lyrics from it. Now,
Wow.
with David Byrne, it doesn't matter what words he sings because it's stop making sense. But with Bono, he has to believe in the meaning of the song, so he can sing a scat vocal that sounds fantastic, and you go, I can't quite understand what he's saying. The fact is, he's not saying anything. He's going, "Rise as you can among the Django," like that, But then he writes the lyrics. and he can't sing it as well. And the performance has to be better than the performance of the scat lyric.
Right.
Right. So, and then the band have to agree on the lyric as well. So it's this, just goes round and round. But eventually he gets there, but he just writes so many different reams and reams of lyrics. But he keeps them all on his iPad.
Oh.
And he'll, when he gets a good phrase or he overhears someone say something, it'll be like that. And he'll try to throw it into every song. He'll mix and match his lyrics for different songs. Yeah, but...
And these guys, it doesn't matter if it's a $40,000 U47 or Bono, it's a SM58 into the console.
The only thing that will get you fired from a U2 record probably is if you don't have 2 SM58s ready to go with limiters and sound and everything sitting there on the table for him to pick up.
With the speakers going, no headphones.
Well, you have to have them prepared. Even if it's a mixing session, you would be fired if you didn't have those. They always have to be there, set up, because he'll go, fantastic mix. I want to sing it again.
That's so, I mean, it's frustrating
because
to
he
us.
sings to the mix.
It's frustrating to us. I can see how frustrating that is after you've done all this work, but at the same time, the way he gets there and the way his process works is incredible because he delivers.
Yeah, in a way, not much more later on than early on. Early on, it was like we had to get it finished. So the first album was 6 weeks. Second album was 2 months. The third album was 3 months. The reason I got invited in to help work on the Joshua Tree, because I didn't do the fourth album, which was Unforgettable Fire. And then after that was the Joshua Tree. So they'd spent almost 18 months on the album. And apparently, story goes, Paul McGuinness, the manager, said, look, when you worked with Steve, you did albums really quickly. But now you're working with Brian Eno and Danny Lanois, you can't seem to finish it, and you need to finish it. Why don't you bring Steve in just to help hurry the process along, So they said yes. So I came in, but I wasn't ever working with Danny or Brian. I would have it's much more like a relay race.
Okay.
They would hand over the songs that they thought were important. I mean, they always gave me the singles. For some reason, I was considered I'd only had New Year's Day as a single with them. It wasn't like I was like the singles guy, but I was actually probably had more of a commercial ear than either Danny or Brian.
Sure.
Who are incredible artists. Oh, yeah. But I think what one of my strengths is I can balance the difference between like an art project and a commercial project. I believe you can't have great commerciality without great art.
Yes.
But it has to sell as well. I mean, that's how the music business should never be subsidized.
No.
In that way, it has to be the survival of the fittest.
Yes.
I think the human race has changed. I think we are either evolving, but I would hate to say it, but I think we're mutating to a different species that can only look at music.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still, I like to think, or I'm just about retired now, but when I was, even in the last, since Pro Tools came, I would like to think I've transcended analog to digital in the way that I've always used my ears.
Yeah.
I've understood what the systems do, and I can say, do this, do that to my team. But honestly, I trust my ears, and that's one thing that I've kept through analog and digital. Because people would say, I would say, do this, and then they say, okay, I've done that, but look there. Do you want me to do that bit? And I go, no.
What's that bit?
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, right.
I didn't hear anything wrong there, so don't, keep it. It's like tuning vocals. I've got my own internal pitch, and I don't have perfect pitch, thank God. Because so I would literally go through a lyric and just underline the words or the consonants I want to be, up or down, and I would give it to my engineer and he would fix it. And then he would go, well, look at this. I said, no, don't do any more. That's all I want. And then I'd listen to it. And so maybe sometimes I go, yeah, you're right. Maybe just do that. But in general, have it like a loose, now the great thing about technology is that it's invented for one reason, but truly creative people use it for other reasons.
Right.
Like I only ever used auto-tune to make comping easier on a vocal. I was quite passive with it, and a lot of old school people do it like that. I don't want to hear the auto-tune. But of course auto-tune's become a whole instrument in itself. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh no.
In the same way that, the person invented the guitar amp, but then someone slashed the speaker to get distortion. That's not what the guy wanted you to do. But that's the difference. That's the difference between the inventors and the creatives. The creatives take, they abuse the technology. And I think at my best, I would do that.
Yeah.
I would fucking screw the compression so hard on the ambience on the drums that it was just doing things that it wasn't made for.
Well, speaking of that, can I play something?
You can play something,
okay.
Claire.
Right.
Claire? No, that's my sister's name.
Well, Clay Blair,
Clay Blair, yes.
It's all very...
Wasn't he a mass murderer?
Oh, yeah, probably. So I remember we were working, it was either the 30 Seconds to Mars or the Pogues, and someone they put the video up of on YouTube of XTC at, was it the townhouse?
At the Manor.
At the Manor.
Yes.
Where they dumped the fish into the pond.
That's right.
Andy Partridge is...
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. And I was enamored, and that album has become one of my favorite XTC albums. Black Sea.
Yeah. It was actually, at the time, it was pretty on an even to me with Drums and Wires and Black Sea. But having listened, because I do now occasionally listen to some of my records.
Yeah.
Because I'm so far distant that I can listen to them. And I prefer Black Sea to Drums and Wires. Although Making Plans for Nigel and
that's
Complicated Game are good. But Black Sea has a little bit more muscle to it.
Yeah. Well, okay, I want to play this for a second because I love you can hear the humor of this band throughout the record.
Yeah.
Is that an anvil? Is that what that is?
No, I think it was a fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher. But
was it an anvil? I
don't know.
We see it was dip. Because hold it there. Because the TV show that you can just go and look, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to YouTube and put XTC at the Manor.
Oh my God.
It's like 6, they cut it into pieces. And it's such a bad quality because the BBC in 1980 didn't keep a copy. So this was literally someone was filming it on the television, I think. I mean, it's very bad quality, but it is quite an insight into making of this song. But it wasn't the album version.
Oh.
This was after. No, because we'd done the album.
Oh, this is a promo.
This was, yes, it was recording the single, but no. We did a pretty good recording of it.
Yeah.
Is this the recording from...
That's the album.
That's the album. But I couldn't remember the album version. I kept in all the chitter-chatter.
In the beginning, yeah.
In the beginning, okay.
Yeah. But I remember just throughout the album, it's the thing you were talking a minute ago about ambience. That's one thing on your records, especially early ones, but even when we were working on the 30 Seconds to Mars stuff, is the ambience, and you use it like an instrument when you mix.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, like, obviously in the 80s, a lot of artificial ambience was becoming popular.
Right.
But you really like to use the room also, like, boy,
Yeah.
holy shit. That sounds like you're in the studio.
Yeah, well, actually, it wasn't the studio, it was the reception. Because the studio was as dead as fuck.
I didn't know that. That's insane.
No, I've told this story before, but I'll quickly tell it.
Okay.
So I feel very proud that I was the first person really to make a decent rock record in Ireland. Now, before U2, there'd been Thin Lizzy, the Boomtown Rats, Rory Gallagher.
Yep.
But as far as I know, they'd all gone to London to make their records. But U2 wanted to record in Dublin, and Windmill Lane was the studio. And I remember going there, and I did one song called A Day Without Me. I didn't really like how the drums sounded. So I wanted more of an ambient sound. And when you walk into the studio, in those days, there was a girl who sat like the receptionist. There were no mobile phones. It would have to go through her, and she'd patch it to various different places. She sat there from, till 6 o'clock in the evening. And I did my sort of clapping, right? And it was this nice area and nice and bright and live. And I said, oh, can we? And I said to the studio manager, can we record the drums here? And he went, but she's sitting there. And I go, well, what time does she leave? He goes, well, she leaves at 6 o'clock. I said, okay, we'll do the drums after 6 o'clock. At which point, Larry, the drummer's dad, got pissed off because he had to be home because he was only 17.
Oh my God.
So I had that to deal with. But yeah, it was a hallway. It was the entrance, but it was a nice stone area, and not unlike the stone room. Well, that wasn't the stone room. That was the stone room at the townhouse. But the version that is on the YouTube was recorded at the Manor.
The Manor.
That was never released, but it still sounds pretty good.
Yeah. That was Hugh Padgham.
Hugh Padgham did the album version. He couldn't come to the Manor. He was busy. So it was another engineer I used who recorded that with me, called Richard Mannering. He did Talking Heads album with me. He was a good engineer. I've been lucky to work with some great engineers. But weirdly, they all sort of end up sounding like my records.
They do.
So it's...
Well, you're always so involved in the mix process.
Oh, I've never made an album where I haven't sat at the mixing desk next to the engineer with these 10 things.
Yeah.
Because these 10 things can just, a mouse is good, but that's like having one finger.
Right. Yeah.
So tactile, even if I'm mixing on Pro Tools, I'll have a controller and do that. But then again, there's the art of pushing it into the mixing desk, which a controller won't do.
No,
that it's the way of playing against the compression that you've, it's.
And then you get the Steve Lillywhite dance if you're lucky, where you stand up.
Yeah, a little bit of dad dancing.
Love it.
That's not too bad. I've been known to do that.
So. A lot of these records that you really were known for very early on in your career were right at the 79, 80.
I was very young.
You were very young.
I was 24. I was born in 55. So I was 65, 24. And 79.
A lot of people don't know this, but the what's the Ultravox record? Wasn't Lanois it was
Brian Eno.
Brian Eno.
Well, this is the story. The studio that I was a staff engineer, staff tape op, was the last studio in the world that had a separate machine room.
Yeah.
Right. So basically most studios have got a studio like here and a control room like there. What we had was a studio, a control room, and room B, where I sat.
Yeah.
Now, room B was an isolated room with a little window that I could just about see the control room. On the mixing desk was a swan neck microphone, and in room B was a little Auratone type speaker on the wall. So the engineer would go, play from the top. I would play from the top. Record. I'd record. Cue to press. Do you know what a cue to press was? Cue to press means a punch in.
Yeah.
But a cue to press means you have to go 10 seconds. Cue to press from 240, I would have to go to 230.
At least they told you the number.
Well, yeah, or the second verse. So
I
became and I would always be listening.
Yeah.
And I'd go, oh, maybe they want to do the second verse again. So at the end of the take, I would line it up just before the second verse while they were chatting. So when the engineer said, let's do it from the second verse again, I was really on it, because I'd like sussed out that they want to do that again.
Right.
So I got quite fine-tuned into that sort of style. But in terms of what this was, I was never allowed in there.
Wow.
Because if I was in there, there was no one pressing the buttons.
Right.
So it was, so I would occasionally get a roadie who would come in and smoke a joint with me or, but it was lonely. It was very lonely. So my boss, who was a wonderful man, Tom Stevenson, he would allow us on weekends, if the studio was empty, to bring in our own project.
Cool.
And I brought in this band, Ultravox, which you may know, you watchers, Ultravox with a singer called Midge Ewer. This was an earlier version of Ultravox who had a singer called John Fox. It was much, I much prefer, not the fact that I produced 2 albums with them, but I do prefer them because it was less sort of shiny pop and it was more, it was like a punky Roxy music.
Yeah.
And that was when so I did the demos. God, this is like 15 minutes ago you asked me this question.
No.
So I did the demos with Ultravox and they got a record deal with Island Records and they wanted me to work on the album with them. But Island Records said, well, you need someone else, a grown-up. And they said, well, we're big Roxy Music fans. Can we get Brian Eno? And because Roxy Music were on Island Records, it was a good connection. So the first time I met Brian Eno was on the first Ultravox album. And Brian is fantastic. He's really, really lovely man and so talented. But he doesn't do the nuts and bolts of a record.
Right.
He'll come in and be Brian Eno, then he'll go out and come back 3 days later and go, okay, play me what you've got.
Yeah.
Or he'll do his thing, But he was great. And so I learned a bit from him on the first Ultravox album, but that was my first production credit.
When's the first time you sat behind a desk and used 10 fingers and said, I don't ever want to do the other thing again. I want to do this.
You know what? I went from, I love doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, balancing. Doing that is not something that I really care about that much.
Right.
I mean, the EQ, the microphones, the getting the original sound, as long as I know that I've got my ambience that I can push up and work and
you, like, when you record, you would use room mics, right? You loved that? Or
always use room mics. And sometimes if I felt like it was the right thing to do, and if I couldn't get the sound I had in my head with cymbals, I would get the drummer to play his part without cymbals, and then I would overdub the cymbals after, because the drum sounded great from distance. Yeah. Whereas the cymbals from distance sounded too loud. Right. And too shushy. So I'd mic the cymbals up close, but the snare drum and the tom-tom, and sometimes different, I would do the tom-toms separately. Right. With Big Country, I would do every fucking drum separately, even though the record sounds like Big Country, like a live band, but every drum was done separately. So it was... I mean, whatever I felt the project needed to be good was how I did it. But I always loved the drummer, because I always got on great with the drummer, because it was, it was the one thing that you could really work on to get a special sound. Yeah. When the lexicons started to show up and the AMS, I never did that. I never put reverb on drums. You didn't? No, it was just the room. Yeah. I mean, occasionally I would put some reverb. Oh, I say reverb, EMT plate. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the old EMT plate. Yep. With a little tape delay. Yep. Before, like that, and I put a little bit of that on the cymbals. Yeah. Or on the overheads if it was just the. But I would never put like an So even though so many of my records have gotten. Yeah. Like that, that's not a reverb. That's just the room
Wow.
that I'm sucking into the sound.
So when you would do these records at all these different studios in that part of your career, was the studio really important to you?
Yeah. I needed a live studio.
Yeah.
And as I say, with U2, when I went over to do the album in Dublin, I didn't have that for the drums. So,
Right.
I mean, it was a big, because the drummer couldn't even see the rest of the band.
Oh, right.
He was,
Because that was a
and
live
there was
record.
no click track. So they would do their performance through the headphones. The good thing is that Edge was, early on using his delay.
Yeah.
So that was like a very loose click track for the band. But the first 2 albums, I never did click tracks with them. And then I remember the first time on Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Yeah.
I said to Larry, we came into the studio, and I said, I've got this new thing that I've been doing. Do you want to try it? And he goes, what's that? I said, it's called a click track. And he goes, what's... I said, look, you're in your headphones, you're going to hear this tick, 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 tick. And I want you to play... And it was Sunday Bloody Sunday, the first song on the album.
Yeah.
First song we recorded.
Oh, I can close my eyes and make it go away. How long must we sing this song?
And I said, when you hear that tick, I want you to do your dun 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 like that. And I said, if ever you hear a flam, if ever you hear the click, you're out of time.
Right.
Because the idea is you're hitting on that beat almost every time. So you shouldn't really even be able to hear it. You should feel it and be at one with it. And literally I spent half a day with him just running the click and him playing. To start with, he was like a young pussycat. He was like that. So he would literally lap the click within 10 seconds.
Wow.
But then I got him to slow down and understand. And actually, from that moment on, he fell in love with the click and would never, ever do anything without the click.
Wow.
Even to the point when they're live and they do anything from the first 2 albums, he would have to have a click. And it's funny, because I've got this love-hate relationship with click tracks. In a way, I think truly, truly great records, you just keep playing it until you've got this magical take that lives and breathes, and it's all things to all men, But I remember seeing them do "I Will Follow" from the first album on stage. I was just going, it sounded leaden. It sounded different. To how the album sounded,
Because the album probably speeds up and slows down.
And it is, and I didn't know he put it to a click until I found out, and I went, oh, well, that's why.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that sort of up and down, that greatness.
Right.
I think.
Well, that's so crazy because Sunday Bloody Sunday, I never would have ever thought that was to a click because it has so much movement.
It was probably not that good. I mean, it was the first time he ever played to a click.
Right.
I mean, I would do so many punch-ins on the drums, you know, and...
what was that studio?
That was the same studio. The first 3 albums we used...
In the...
No.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know the songs at that point.
Yeah.
The first album, they knew the songs pretty well, so they could play them.
Yeah.
But, we were always playing catch-up from the second album onwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, even playing a little bit of catch-up on the first album, because he hadn't finished all the lyrics, even for the first album.
Wow.
He would, sing the same verse 2 times, so he would have to write a second verse,
Yeah.
He'd never got round to it.
Right.
But yeah, it's all good fun, Clay.
Okay, tell me about this song. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Don't tell me.
All right.
Will I Twitch? Oh, come on. I love this song.
It's not the single version.
No, it would be... No, I just got it wrong.
Oh, you got it wrong. Yeah.
I thought that's where the drums came in.
Oh.
Because the vocals. Here we come.
Oh. I see. Hold on. Let me do it again.
It doesn't mean I didn't try.
know why. Curtain closed all alone. Ooh, baby, you're not at home.
I didn't know this album, and it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. By the way, the album is called So Alone, and the artist is Johnny Thunders, who was a inaugural member of the New York Dolls, who were, as what's the word, seminal?
Yeah.
One of those bands who didn't sell a lot of records, but
Right.
actually were a bigger influence than they were record
Huge.
sellers.
Yeah.
Huge influence, both in style, because they wore makeup and stuff, and sound. It was sassy punk. It was, but their lifestyle was,
Right.
they were from very poor immigrant families in New York, and
Yeah.
they got, especially Johnny got turned to a darker side, but fantastic, and that record, I was very lucky. I was quite pushy, young 23-year-old, and Johnny had left New York and had come with his new band called the Heartbreakers over to London. And Johnny knew my roommate, and the general consensus was that the Heartbreakers were a great live band, but their album didn't sound very good. And I remember sort of perpetuating this myth that it wasn't a good sounding album, and selling Johnny, look, I'll do your solo album. I'll make you sound great.
You're 23.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know, but he's
Yeah.
only 25 or 26.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did his album. He had a wonderful manager called BP Fallon, who's quite a legendary Irish DJ, entrepreneur, friend of Jimmy Page and all famous people. And BP brought, he got all these great musicians. We had Steve and Paul from the Sex Pistols. We had Phil Lynott. We had Stevie Marriott. We had many great. The drummer on that song was great. A guy called Mike Kelly from a band called Spooky Tooth.
Oh, Spooky
Right.
Tooth.
So he was from a different era
Wow.
than before us. The only ones, Peter Perrett was fantastic during that album. He really helped me. He pretty much helped me co-produce it, but I was the guy who got the credit.
Yeah.
But no, it's a pretty good album.
Yeah, it is.
And
I went through kind of like, the Discogs and a lot of these early, you were doing like, I wouldn't even say post-punk, like punk, like proper punk.
yeah, it was, for me, punk was a great attitude, but it was a limited art form.
Mm.
I've always, at the end of the day, been a melody person.
Yeah.
So I never really liked the sort of punk that was the screaming, shouting type punk.
Right.
But I did like the attitude of punk, because that's what we were rebelling against. It was our music. So I would always go for an XTC than go for a Slaughter and the Dogs or something like, someone who was like noisy.
Yeah.
But this album really was the key to me getting a hit. And as I've always said, once you've got a hit.
Was that your first hit?
No, that wasn't a hit.
No, it wasn't.
But during the recording of that, the manager of a band called Susie and the Banshees came to the studio, listened to that song actually, and said, "Oh, I like how that sounds. We have just recorded our first single for Polydor, but we don't like it." And because at that time, Susie and the Banshees were the hottest band in town. So I knew.
This is London, right?
What's that?
In London.
In London, with Polydor, they got signed to. Now, in their record deal, they had it written that they had artistic control of their releases because, the A&R men were from a different generation. This was something new. And because Susie was so like hot, the label said, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Wow.
So they done a version of Hong Kong Garden with an unnamed American producer. I've never, ever heard it. I don't think anyone ever did. But the band decided they didn't like it. Now, I knew that if I did a version of the song that the band liked and therefore was released and therefore would be a hit because there was so much groundswell with Susie and the Banshees, I thought, I'll have a hit probably, so we went in the studio and we made a record we all liked, but I had to make sure, and that's always been in the back of my head. It's not my record.
Yeah.
It's the artist's record.
Right.
And, if I do something and they say they don't like it, then I've got no ego about it. But I'll lead and I'll move it forwards. And in those days, new bands didn't know recording studios.
Right.
So there was never a question of them saying, I don't like how it sounds, because they had no idea how it could sound.
Right.
So it was my job to make it sound how I wanted to, really.
Right.
But luckily our tastes were pretty similar. And so I did Hong Kong Garden with Susie and the Banshees, and that became a hit. And now for me, having a hit, it was just this amazing thing. It didn't give me an ego.
Yeah.
What it did was made me think, fuck, I've got a hit. I can work with whoever I want, and it was literally that as a fan. It was like, It wasn't, I've had a hit, I can make anyone a hit, it wasn't like that. It was like, and as long as I keep my standards high, I'll keep having hits, because I don't want, I've got no ego. I have no ego where I think, oh, I'll work with that. I can make your shitty band good.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point? If I've given the choice of working with a shitty band or a good band, which one would I produce?
Right.
The good band.
Yeah.
How much work would I have to do? Less.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And how do I get that band against that band is having had a hit. So I had a hit. So that was my thinking. It was easy. I've had a hit, so I can choose that band. Fucking let someone else do that band. Someone who's got I don't care. And I've always wanted to work with the best, because I know that I can do a good job with the best. It doesn't mean I'm no good. It means that I've earned the trust of the best.
Sure.
And that's how I feel.
That's fantastic.
And it's a slippery slope if you start. I mean, occasionally in my career, I've done a record for the wrong reasons, and the wrong reasons is for money.
Sure.
And I've always fallen down. I mean, there are some producers who look at it as a job.
Right.
And if you look at it as a job, then you can do a good job. I don't ever see it as a job. It's a vocation.
Yeah.
And a vocation is something that you have to, have the sense of innocence that you had on your first record somehow. Or at least 80%, after 40 years, was I as innocent on my 40th year album than my first? No, I wasn't. But there was still a sense of wonder. I still felt and still do feel, if I ever get to go into the studio again, that feel of wonder for what's going on, and the feeling that there can be a sort of magical thing happen, because I'm a people person, and having a group of people being sort of led by me in there, but leading sometimes means doing nothing. I'm not saying do this, no, it's not like that. It's a collaborative thing where we are all moving like a flock of birds, where we're all moving in the right direction towards something great, something greater than the individuals, what each of us individually couldn't do, and that's how that's why I love, that's why I have been known to say I probably wouldn't want to be in the music business now, because, I don't want to be a typist.
Right.
And that's sort of that's an extra talent that you have to have. And you're not molding a group of musicians together that way. It's a different job, and it's still a great job, but I'm not sure. I think I'd probably move into hospitality or something like that. That's why, because I'm a people person.
Right. Right. Mixing a record and being in charge of those things and having the notes from the A&R, the manager, the artist, the whoever else is involved.
Hardly
in
ever.
1977 compared to now, how's that changed?
There's no manager. My two favorite managers I've ever worked with have never stepped foot in the studio to give an opinion. One is Paul McGuinness from U2, and one is Corin Capshaw from Dave Matthews Band, and now Fish. I mean, basically their premise was, we're the manager. We believe in you.
Yeah.
You're the artist. My job is not to critique you. If I did that, I might not like it. And if I don't like it, why should I? I'm not the best manager for you, but I believe in you as artists. I've got no history of being creative. My job is to deal with the record company and get the best for you. So, I mean, I've literally have worked with a band where the manager, every single session was sat in the green room.
Oh,
You know, the door was open and it was just weird. I mean,
Yeah.
I would never say don't,
yeah.
but I can't. But it's they were a big band as well. It was yeah. So and A&R men, I've never really had much input from A&R men.
Yeah.
I've given them the album and that's it.
Yep.
And
And when it comes to the artists, we were talking about how primitive recording was in 1977 for the artist, and now it's so accessible. Can you imagine mixing that volume of work in 2025 that you did in 78?
No, because
79?
we have more choices, But again, I mean, I still think analog. I think
Right.
when I'm, when I'm in the studio, I every time something is overdubbed, you're mixing it. Literally, you're
Yeah.
mixing it into the sound that's there, and you literally have to think, does that make it better or worse? If it makes it worse, why does it make it worse?
Mhm.
Is it because it shouldn't be there, or is it because it is wrong? And then you have to work out, well, maybe try a different thing, and so we'll keep trying to add on. So, because again, a mate of mine said, Steve, seems to me that as you make a record, the amount of choices you have to make become less and less and less and less and less until
it
you've got
should.
the album.
Yeah.
And you go back to the Beatles again. That's exactly how they worked.
Yep.
I mean, all this mixing, they never really mixed it. It just it went to a mixed state. Once the final thing was on, it's mixed.
Right. Right.
Maybe a little bit of this and a little bit of that,
Yeah.
but it's it wasn't deconstructed for the mix. Now, using the mixing desk as a tool, I've done that,
Yeah.
with Peter Gabriel in 1980. We did an incredible, there's a song called No Self-Control that starts out with marimbas and vocal. And then we literally brought in things as this was great because it was edited on half inch. So I would sit and balance up the front and I'd get the beginning right with the vocal. And then we'd record that, and then we go, okay, what should we bring in now? Because it was the drums, everything was in all the way from the beginning to the end.
Right.
So we had to sculpt the mix. And Hugh Padgham was great. He was sitting at the back all the time, and we just, okay, Hugh, so we'd record it. He'd put the headphones on and edit it, and he'd go like that and say, okay, we're ready for the next bit now. We never listened back from beginning to end.
Wow.
Until probably 6 hours later, when we'd finished the mix, and we were so confident that it was going to be good, we did invite people in from
Wow.
outside. Come and listen to this. We think we've done something amazing, and we did, and it really was amazing. The only thing was the volume got so loud.
No.
You start at you set the volume at like there,
Yeah.
and then you play it back, but it just got so loud
Right.
that in fact, when it came to mastering, we had to sort of ease it back.
There are always hidden silences waiting behind the chair. They come out when the coast is clear.
And I remember that playback going, oh no, it's got too loud. Oh no, having to turn down a little bit because we didn't know. But
Right.
but the sonics were good on the mix. It just needed a bit of overall
Right.
turning the front up and then bring it back. But yeah, so you can use the mixing desk as a tool as well.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, how did that come about? How did that Peter Gabriel record come to you?
I had a couple of hits, three. I was around. I was
Yeah.
one of the names of the new brigade. Because punk rock threw up. John Leckie. Chris Thomas came from before. He because he'd done Pink Floyd and
Right.
stuff like that. But John Leckie, me, a handful of young kids really
Yeah.
who were making these new records and being on the scene. So I'd done I might have done the first U2,
Yeah.
maybe. I'd done XTC, I'd done the Members, I'd done Susie and the Banshees, I'd done Johnny Thunders, and I got a call from Peter Gabriel's manager, and she said, Gail Coulson, her name was, she said, Steve, Peter Gabriel would be interested in you working with him. And I went, this is a joke. I mean, because Peter Gabriel had been in Genesis,
Right.
of course, and was not part of what I did,
Yeah.
but as I say, I never thought of what I did, like punk rock, as being anything but an attitude. And Peter had that attitude
Sure.
in spades,
Oh,
because he
yes.
said, I don't want it to be like normal.
Look what he used to wear on stage. I mean, he was-
Yeah, exactly. So, and he was like that on his records. He didn't
Yeah.
want it to sound like other people's records.
Right.
So, even though, I listen back to that album now, and it's one of the darkest records, but it's great.
It's great. Yeah.
The making of it was so joyful.
Oh, that's
It was
so
like
cool.
it was like a kids' youth club. I mean, we were playing ping pong all the time. We were like kids in a playpen. I mean, it really was. I mean, we would do. There was this, because he was signed to Atlantic in America
Yeah.
by a guy called John Kolodner, who was a very famous A&R man, and but he really got up our noses, because his idea was that the best record in the world was the one that sold the most records,
Sure.
and we didn't agree with that.
So American.
So, well, in a way, yeah. But he came from, he would come from California to check up on how we were doing in the recording. Now, we
Wow.
knew when he was arriving, what time he was arriving. So we would turn the air conditioning in the control room to freezing, right? But we wouldn't let on that we thought it was cold.
Right.
We'd put on an extra jacket, but it was really cold. So whenever he came in and we played him some songs, we could see that he was like that. But of course he couldn't say, because he was the visitor, so he couldn't say make it warmer,
Right.
because he
Yeah.
was a very polite man,
Wow.
But he was definitely. We did it so that he wouldn't stay very long.
Yeah.
And it worked. But he decided to drop Peter for that album.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't see it. He didn't,
Wow.
because it was different and he couldn't understand. So then it was picked up by Mercury Records in America, which at the time was, I think, along with RCA, was the worst record label you could sign to. It had no hits. It was living on sort of old soul hits, catalog stuff.
Yeah.
Mercury Records had nothing. And it did pretty well on
Yeah.
Mercury. But good on John Kolodner, had no... He re-signed Peter after that album for his next album.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was all right. But I know we were just like young kids on that album. It was great.
Wow. Where was the studio?
We recorded some at the Townhouse, because this was when the Phil Collins drum sound was,
Oh, yeah.
was sort of instigated, really. It was played on Peter's
Yeah.
album, and then Phil just went, I love that.
The ball and the biscuit mic or whatever it is that is up in the ceiling.
the talkback.
Yeah.
Every time you press the talkback and he hit the drum, it sounded brilliant. So
Yeah.
Hugh wired that into the tape machine, and of course Peter didn't want cymbals, which was something that just made me happy, because
Yeah.
I'd been like doing ambience, but whenever I did ambience before, the cymbals were too loud, so I'd get them to do. But to have the song in its conception without cymbals was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how we worked. It was fantastic, really.
Ah, it's
But
incredible.
very different to my other albums, because we do like 2 weeks recording, then have 2 months, then have a month off. And during that month, I'd go off and do a Psychedelic Furs album, you know, or something like that, because Peter was slow in
Yeah.
his lyric writing. So it was over a period of about 5 or 6 months, that album. Not recording all the time, but, you know,
Here and there.
here and there, on and off. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know you told me once that you're a big Smiths Morrissey fan, and
Yeah.
you ended up mixing
Ask.
Ask.
A 3-letter word.
3-letter word,
3-letter
yes.
word, just not exactly the right one.
And this was many years before you worked with Morrissey solo.
Well,
but-
yeah, it was. I knew Johnny Marr before Morrissey, not necessarily because of me, but because of Kirsty, my wife. He was a big fan of Kirsty, and
and you make Kirsty's records too, right?
yeah, I made her
Yeah.
records,
Yeah.
a couple of albums when I was with her. But there was a bit of a period of time when we had the kids and she didn't work. But yeah, I was very proud of one album I did with her called Kite, which is you should listen to it
Oh, well, yeah.
if you, very good record, and great lyrics, fantastic artist. And Johnny, you know, Johnny's not stupid. If Johnny Marr's a fan of you, whoever Johnny Marr is a fan of, it's worth checking out.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because he has great taste.
Right.
So it was with Johnny Marr that I first got together, and actually I remember a crazy night when Keith Richards and Johnny Marr came to my house,
Oh my God.
and they were jamming, and Keith and Kirsty were singing, and I was recording it from about 1 a.m. till 6 a.m, and I don't have those tapes.
Oh my God.
But funnily enough, I mean, the songs that I mean, Keith didn't really know who Johnny was.
Yeah.
You know, he was just this young kid from this band. Oh, right. You know, and Johnny wasn't going to say, listen to me, you know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, I want the knowledge.
Right.
So it was mainly the songs they were singing were Everly Brothers songs,
Oh.
you know, and then I would say, Johnny, let's do one of yours. And he would start playing a Smith song. Now, if you've ever listened to a Smith song decomposed, just the guitar and not the singing,
Yeah.
it's really difficult to know what the song is, because that's what makes the Smiths so brilliant, is that you've got this incredibly intricate guitar playing and a melody that really bears no resemblance.
Right.
Because Morrissey doesn't think musically and Johnny only thinks musically. You know, so as a songwriting duo, they are just so unique, you know. And that's why the Smiths were the best version of Morrissey, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's timeless art, which is obviously what we're all trying to make. But you don't know if it's timeless until time has passed.
Right.
Of course.
How did you end up mixing that song? Was that a
Ask. I had a studio at home.
Yeah.
I had a AMEC Angela desk.
Oh yeah.
AMEC Angela.
That was a Rupert Neve thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. It was a mate of mine from school randomly made a studio for Alvin Lee, and was working for Alvin Lee in France, in Spain, at his studio. He was a tech. And I asked him to come and design a studio in a spare room of this house that I bought. And he did that. It was nice. I had the AMEC Angela, I had a 24-track tape machine, some outboard, and it was opposite the kids' bedroom, but it was a room within a room.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was great. Yeah. And so we would go in there, not do so much recording of a band. It was too small for a band, but we'd do all the vocals. And on Kirsty's records, you know, she was like, every song was like the Beach Boys.
Oh.
You know, she would do all these amazing harmonies and things. And then, yeah, it was great. Yeah, good time. And our little kids would come in and they were on the video with mum. You know, it was, you know, hippie stuff really. But
That's fantastic.
during the 80s. Yeah.
So great. We were talking about producing live shows a little bit, since producing bands in the studio is a dream, a past dream, and it's a dream of mine actually to produce bands in the studio. You know, so please call.
Yeah,
But but
yes, this is actually an infomercial for this wonderful place where we're sitting. By the way,
it is.
I mean, Clay wouldn't be doing this if he didn't think this was somehow someone thinks I'll go to Hollywood and work at the iconic Boulevard Recording. There you go.
Has this room got enough ambiance for a Steve Lillywhite production?
No, honestly, maybe I could pull something out, but you know, you can put things around.
Yeah,
and I don't want to be known just for that.
No,
in fact, I did that. I got to a point where I was a bit cocky, and I thought, this is what I do, which is a terrible way to think.
Yeah.
But I was asked to do a album with a guy called Marshall Crenshaw in New York, and we went into the power station, and you know, I went, oh yeah, I love this.
That's one of the songs I had queued up because I'm a big fan, actually.
Are you a fan of Crenshaw?
Yeah,
oh, he's lovely, man.
Yeah.
He's great, and his brother, who's the drummer, is a great guy.
Yeah,
still his friend on Facebook, and it was, you know, it was, people didn't quite understand how it sounded when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But Marshall always will, you know, always say it's what I wanted. That's why we had Steve Lillywhite. I wanted it to sound like that.
Yeah.
Which was good. I mean, I'm not sure whether at the time I felt like I fucked it up. But funnily enough, you know, people love that album now.
I love it.
People say to me, oh, you know, there's TikTok, there's a song, listen to the clock.
Yeah.
What time is it? And whenever you're on my mind.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I never, you know, I listened to those albums, and I don't think either I knew you did that or I'd forgotten you'd done that. Come on, play.
My favorite bit on this, leave it going. When it goes into the chorus, it's great.
Yeah. So good.
It's great, right?
The drums are huge.
Yeah, but he's Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly never had huge drums.
No. And the percussion, the maracas are as loud as the vocal, which, you know, I'd get people telling me, I mixed this thing with a cowbell in it. And I said,
Right.
You put a fucking cowbell in it and you want me to turn it down to where you can barely hear it? What's the point of putting a cowbell in there?
Yeah.
Because on the records where the cowbell originated, they had to do the percussion with the vocal overdub.
Yeah.
So it was right there with the vocal, and that's how we evolved to hearing percussion.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but Motown too, like that was, or it was live and they couldn't cut it out.
Right,
And it bled into everything.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, a loud cowbell is a full sound. You
Right.
turn a cowbell down quiet, all you hear is the top end.
Yeah.
So it's sort of it's a tick.
It's a can.
It's a can.
Yeah.
Whereas you know, because you hear the body of the cowbell when it's louder.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love that record. I actually saw Marshall in the spring. He played here. He was fantastic.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. No, it's lovely, man.
Yeah. So what would 23-year-old Steve Lillywhite say to 69-year-old Steve Lillywhite?
Yeah, I am 69. He would say, you should have stretched more. I'm getting a bit Joe Biden, you know.
But you've kept yourself in great shape.
Relatively, Clay.
Well, I mean, you have.
Well, not bad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I try to eat well.
Yeah.
I don't exercise because my ankles are hurting.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's funny. I think it'll probably. I always like to say I would like to think I've got 15 good and 5 leaky years.
Mm.
You know, the 5 leaky, no one will see me. You know, I don't
Yeah.
want to, you know, but that would take me to 90 now. And I
Yeah.
don't think my dad was 61 when he died. And,
Yeah.
and you can sort of look at your genetics have a lot more to do with your lifespan
Sure.
than any lifestyle choice,
Right.
apparently,
Yes.
which is unfair. You know, it's
It
like
is.
you can be clean and, you know, which is why people who go running every day and drop dead at 40,
At 40. Yeah.
you know, because it's just in their blood, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what life has got in, you know, for me.
Are you going to stay in Southeast Asia?
I think so. I've just built this big house, the lily pad, and I love it. It's it's the only place I've really had. I mean, I've bought other houses, but I've always not been interested in what house I was buying. I would say to my wife,
Yeah.
you know, you buy it,
Right.
or you know, whoever I was with at the time, you buy that house. I'll just come and I'll pay for it, and I'll live there with you.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right.
that was I didn't really care.
Yeah.
But this was my thing. I worked with the architect. I've worked with the lighting and the you know, all of it is, and it's very open plan. I don't even have a bedroom.
Yeah.
I've just got one big room
You're
where
gonna
I live.
sleep levitating, right?
Yeah, but you know, in one house I've got 9 meters of glass window. You know, so it's impressive, and it's but it's not typical Balinese. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's very modern.
Yeah.
But I'm there for I've realized that there are stairs going up to my house. So if I ever get really
Yeah.
like maybe I'll get one of those little chair things
Yeah.
that you see advertised on
Right.
CNN. But yeah, I'm there for the foreseeable.
What's something you can't live without there?
Football.
Football.
Yeah, soccer.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a box where I can watch whatever I need to watch where I am.
That's great.
And you know, I'm still very British and stuff.
What do you miss food wise that you can't get there?
Oh, I mean, there's great food in Bali because there's a lot of expats have moved there.
Oh, wow.
And they've opened
From England and the US as well?
everywhere.
Everywhere.
You know, like there's some great bakeries.
Oh,
You know, so I can get as good sourdough there, probably better than I can get in LA.
probably.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, sour bread is not an LA. Maybe it's the weather that you know you don't get.
It's not like the East Coast.
Yeah. The East Coast is better probably for bread.
Yeah.
But and it's but you know I get sushi flown in. It's flown in from Japan twice
Wow.
a week to my local sushi place. So you know I have a good life there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What's if somebody in the past that you'd worked with, Dave Matthews Band, YouTube, I mean, I wish I could say XTC, but I don't think Andy will ever do it again. But
No.
what if they came to you tomorrow and said, Steve, Steve, we want to go into a studio and make a record like we used to?
I'm not sure. It would depend who the artist is. In general, going back to the old team, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't know. I still get, I got called from U2 to go and help work on their shows at the Sphere
You're right.
in Las Vegas. And while we were there rehearsing, it was, I mean, Bono probably said, we've got a new song. Don't like how it's sounding.
Mm.
We want to record it as the band. So on a weekend during rehearsals, we flew to LA, went to Sound City,
Right.
and set up the band and recorded this song called Atomic City, like a live version of the band playing it, like in the early days. And it's a pretty good version. It's
Cool.
a pretty good song.
Yeah.
And that was sort of weird for me you know, I've done mixing and been involved in that sort of thing, but like going in and setting up drum mics, you know, it was like, really? God, I didn't think I was ever going to do this again. But it was good fun. It was amazing working at the Sphere. It is one of the 9 wonders of the wonders of the world. No, it really is. It's quite incredible. I'd love to go and see Fish or the Dead.
Yeah.
Even the Eagles there is just
Yeah.
going to be a wonderful thing.
Well, Fish, we didn't talk about it much.
Oh, we did. I did a couple of albums with Fish.
Yeah,
and I listened to Billy Breathes
it's
yesterday.
a great album.
Billy Breathes is a pretty good album.
It is.
It's a complete album
it is.
from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I'm pretty. Were you going to play some?
I'll play one more before we close out, just
Okay.
because I discovered this. You know, I mean, I had listened to the album, but I didn't listen to it thinking that you had done it at the time. But they're not really known for their albums. They're known for their live shows.
Fish. Yeah. This is probably their. You know, it's their recorded album peak.
And this was this in Bearsville?
Yeah, we recorded at Bearsville in the barn.
Barn.
Not even in the main studio.
Wow.
But there's some great playing on it. I mean,
Oh.
they're just great musicians.
They are. I mean, this is.
The bass playing, wait till the free section
Oh.
comes in, and the bass playing is brilliant.
Unreal.
I'm floating in the blimp a lot. I feel the feeling I forgot. We're swimming weightless in the wound. We're bouncing gently round the room. In a minute I'll be free, and you'll be splashing in the sea. I feel no curiosity.
Was that a Steve call, or was that a? Yeah.
That was just me putting a load of reverb on the bass.
Oh, it was. Oh. But I mean, how do you make a?
It's my favorite thing. But if I can
Yeah.
ever find a place to put reverb on bass,
Oh.
I'll do it. It's a great thing.
How do you make a pop record with a jam band? I mean, that's incredible.
Well, again, I think Fish are genuinely a jam band.
Right.
The Dave Matthews Band are in that same scene, but they're more a band of soloists.
Sure.
And it's different with them. But Fish really are a jam band. They all move upwards and down. It was great. I mean, they'd already started the album, and they really didn't. They'd lost the plot somewhat, and I came in, and I was just me.
Yeah.
You know, I go, okay, guys, let's. What have you got? Okay, we got this. Let's work on that song. Because they were just,
Yeah.
and I was absolutely took the lead and turned it into a record. You know, which was great.
You did a couple records there, right?
I
Travis?
did one. I did. At Bearsville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did some Travis. I did Guster, who
Right.
just recently, 2 days ago, I was playing bass with them at Red Rocks.
That's right.
And it's that one is a really special album to me, Lost and Gone Forever, because my eldest 2 children, that album means a hell of a lot to
It
them.
means a lot to me too.
Really?
I grew up on that album.
On Lost and Gone Forever? Oh, I didn't know that.
That's a very. What's the song? All the Way Up to Heaven.
Oh, yes.
It's like I listen to this intense bouncing around, and it's a big 4 on the floor album. Then all of a sudden, I'm like, what the fuck is this? It always blew my mind. I'm like, this is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. Now
Yeah, you go all the way up to heaven.
that's my favorite record of Guster.
Yeah.
very easily.
That
That was Bearsville.
was that was the plant
Okay.
mixed at Bearsville.
Oh, cool.
But as I say, mixing for me can be done at a worse studio
Yeah.
in a way, because
Right.
you need to get it down.
Right.
Before I mix a record, the die is cast.
Yep.
And I always say that. I say, look, if you don't like how it's sounding now, you won't like the record because
Right.
nothing's going to change drastically because
No.
we're moving towards the finish line.
Yep.
You know, we're honing our record as we
Yeah.
go. You know, and that again is
We've
that
got
comes from the limitations of tape. People who don't have the limitations of tape just think in a different way. They go, I'll put everything in
yeah.
and then I'll, you know, take it out. It's all different.
I know that was tape. When I had tape before the fire, I used to, when I had the chance, use it as a tool of discipline to say, no, we can't do that. Sorry, we're on tape. We can't do that.
Or if you want to do that, we'll have to take this off. Make your choice.
Well, that was the truth. I remember somebody wanted to comp all their vocals on tape, and I said, okay, well, we're gonna have to bounce down a couple things, and we would do it. And I remember we dumped everything. We were mixing, you know, the string parts we did. I think that like maybe the double is just a little too quiet, and I said, sorry,
Too late.
use your imagination. We'll put some chamber on it or
Yeah.
something.
I think the least creative part of analog recording, and I think when records got worse was when you ran two multi-tracks at the same time with a time code.
Yeah.
That a lot of the times you could hear so it's just like, fuck off, I don't want to hear that sound.
Yeah.
And you can't just immediately go back and do something quick. You know, sometimes you just want to
Yeah.
go back and punch in this bit and just,
No.
you know, you had to wait for the machine to
Catch up.
it was horrible.
Yeah.
You know, so I would always, you know, if you can't do it on a 24 track,
Yeah.
the problem is not that.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right.
That's great.
You know, but hey,
All right, then.
I want to thank you so much for doing
Oh,
this.
it's been an absolute pleasure. The time has just has scooted by.
It has.
It's
and I-
great to be here at Boulevard Recording. Come here and make your next record. Be a fortune you can get me, but you don't really want old Steve Lillywhite, and young Steve Lillywhite's not around anymore.
Thank you for joining me and the last studio on the Boulevard. We're going to do monthly episodes, so please subscribe, share on your social media, and we will see you next time. And as always, your host, Clay Blair. See you soon.